Good evening and welcome to a very special edition of Revolution and Beer. I'm W.C. Turk, Chicago author and activist.
And I'm Brian Murray, revolutionandbeer.com.
And we're here tonight with a very special guest, Tom Tresser of CivicLab and the TIFfed Illumination project. Had to practice it all. Good night. Good evening, Tom.
It's good to be on your show. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for coming out.
Hey, folks have to understand that we are not dealing with our usual amount of lubrication this evening. We're usually drinking at about 11:30, 12 on Saturday in the afternoon. And tonight we're actually sipping of the Holy Spirit here at People's Church in Uptown. So
the beer helps. It's good lubrication.
Which we don't have tonight, but man, I'm feeling the spirit. So
that's it. That's it. Tom, again, thank you for coming on the show tonight. We really needed to touch on this project. We've been talking about a lot of issues around Chicagoland from a grassroots and activism point of view. This one we got involved with very, very early on from your first meeting at the theater.
It was at the Chopin Theater.
That's correct.
Over on Division.
Yeah. Standing room only. This has been. I have to say this right off the bat. You must be the most hated man in City Hall.
Yeah, you can't be making any friends doing this kind of.
Well, you may have that right. So
any powerful friends, that is.
So right, the TIFfed Illumination project is an attempt to explain what exactly is a tax increment financing district,
and what exactly,
and why you should care,
right. Absolutely.
And to your point about not being a popular person. I was one of the organizers of No Game Chicago back in 2009, and we worked to stop the Olympics from coming here. So I guess by now, they must have a dartboard with my face on it.
Right.
But
you ran daily away, just like that.
Right. But the question really is what's going on inside this great city?
Yep.
How is it really working? And where's the money flowing? And whose hands are on the steering wheel is really at the heart of my work. And I'm sort of a good government geek, you know. I'm sort of obsessed with grassroots democracy, the idea that people should be makers of history, not victims of it. I really believe in the democratic ideal where, you know, your voice matters, that democracy is not a spectator sport. You know, you don't do it from the couch, you got to get up and work it. We are, I think, used to a certain customer-centric culture now. It's like, hey, I'm here at McDonald's. I've been waiting 2 minutes, and I haven't been served. You know, people are in that mode of being served.
Sure.
So they're looking at themselves now as customers, and I think the key is we are citizens, and to be citizens, smart and engaged, we need some knowledge. You know, back in the day when the country was founded, they put in the First Amendment, you know, that guarantees the freedom of expression.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, you've heard of it. It's
still around?
It's in danger every once in a while, you know, with the drones and the unauthorized wiretaps and all this stuff that the government is doing. But the idea was that if we're going to turn the government over to the people, then we have to know stuff. We have to be smart. And I think it was one of our founders that said that, you know, an informed citizenry that is lacking information is a tragedy or a farce. You couldn't tell which. So that's really kind of what's driving me, to give people some of the information and tools they need to be active citizens. So what is a TIF? Well, a Tax Increment Financing District is a tool that was invented to help development come into communities where development would not come. A shopping mall, a housing project, a grocery store, things of this nature. Because of what is called blight. So blight is a loaded word in a lot of communities, and you could have a long conversation about who blighted who, because, you know, we had redlining in this city for many years, and disinvestment and discriminatory practices. So the conversation around blight is quite loaded, but nevertheless, the law that governs TIFs, which is a state law, TIFs are managed by cities, created by cities, but it's a state law, but it says that where there is this blight and the market doesn't want to operate, so you're a developer, you want to build a grocery store, you want to put it in this blighted neighborhood, but the bank is going to only give you money at 30%.
Right.
Because the bank is saying, these poor people aren't going to eat your food, they're not going to rent your homes, so it's a big risk, and therefore we're going to rent you money at a high rate. You're the developer, you can't make it happen, so you go to the mayor and you say, Mr. Mayor, can you give me $5 million for my project, please, to put it in this blighted community? That's the idea.
That's the idea.
Seems to make some sense.
Right, so if you're, so you're saying,
Some.
if there's blight, but for this money, the project wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So those are the two conditions that are driving TIFs. Now what happens is, if the mayor likes your project and says, yeah, please do build your grocery store or your project in this blighted area, here's what we're gonna do for you. We're gonna give you $5 million. There's no strings attached. And so that's good for you. We're going to draw a line around the properties. So your project is here, and then we're going to draw a line around that. In all the properties inside that line, that's the TIF district, we're going to take a snapshot of how much property tax is being paid at that time. And we call that the base amount.
Yep.
Now, the TIF district lasts for 23 years. So that's a number we have to keep in the back of our mind. So now we've taken a snapshot of this community and all the properties, and the base amount, say, is $100,000. Let's say that's how much property taxes is generated right this moment. That's a number that we have to keep in mind, because that number is going to the units of government that rely on property tax for their operations. So for you folks at home, take out your property tax bills, and you'll see down the side all the units of government that are drawing your property taxes. And you will see, if you're in the city of Chicago, the Board of Ed is the biggest user at about 54%. Okay, so that's on your property tax bill. So that's who gets the base, right?
Theoretically.
Right, theoretically, that's how it's supposed to be. Except when the TIF comes in, we've got another hand to feed. We have another mouth to feed. We have another party at the supper table gobbling up property taxes.
Right.
Pretty healthy body at the supper table, too.
Pretty healthy, pretty robust. In 2011, Chicago's 163 TIF districts gobbled up $454 million.
Right.
So that's a good appetite, I'd say.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how TIFs work. And every dollar over that base, remember we hypothetically said those properties have $100,000 in property taxes?
Yeah.
That's going to the base, that's going to the schools and the Board of Ed and the libraries, et cetera. Now it's 3 years later, your project is finished, other things have happened in this district, and now instead of $100,000 in property taxes, it's now $125,000.
Right.
Well, that $25,000, that's the increment over the base. That $25,000 is gobbled up by the TIF and is taken off the table into a black box. And that's how it works.
I just wanted to say very quickly for the folks at home, we're going to have links up both to the TIF Illumination project.
Okay.
And we're also going to have links up to CivicLab, but we're also going to be putting up links to some of the information that you're going to have here. Ways you can get involved at home. Ways that you can get involved with others that are undertaking this project all around the city.
Right.
So you sort of started the fire, and you're going around the city lighting fires for this Illumination project.
Yeah, we're shining a light.
Yeah.
So all this is kind of admittedly gnarly and a bit geeky. So the links that you're mentioning, people can go to the website and look at some presentations and some other things and knock yourselves out. But that's basically how it works.
And just to be really clear, the TIF money is money that's basically skimmed right off the top.
Skimmed off the top.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good actually analogy. I like to use the casino analogy. So imagine you're in Vegas and you're gambling and you hit the slots, and the slots have taken $1,000 worth of revenue, right? So now we're the owners of the casino. We're in Chicago, and we want the tally from that night. Right. And the mob is actually running the casino, and they send us the cash of $900. So we look at the tally and go, hey, that's not bad. $900 is not bad for the night. We don't know that the mob took $100 off the top.
Yeah.
They skimmed it. It's off the top. So the TIF is like that. The TIF takes it off the top and compresses the amount that's left over for everybody else. So the little birdies in the nest that are looking for their property tax worms, they have 34% less taxes to get because TIFs have sucked up that much in the city of Chicago.
And the mob here
to beat on that image. Yeah.
Just to continue with that analogy, the mob here is Rahm Emanuel and who?
Well, it would be the alderman.
Okay.
Though a lot of times we're finding that the local aldermen actually don't know anything more than the citizens do. We've actually had an alderman and a state senator in our meetings, and they profess that this is all news to them, unfortunately. So, as I say, TIFs are created by the city and its Department of Economic Development and Housing, which is of course run by the mayor.
Seems like an awful lot of power for one man to have.
Well, that's how it is in the city. The mayor does have, even though.
So then there must be some terrific oversight for one person to have that kind of power.
Yeah, well, our city council is doing a great job of oversight. Remember, they voted, I think it was something like 44-5 or something.
Yeah.
For the parking meter deal. Right?
Yeah. And that's gone great. Yeah, I love it. My dog pees on those things every time we walk by one. I don't even have to tell him anymore.
Yeah, they're the no-arm bandits.
So there is no oversight.
In name only.
Okay.
Really, a name only.
Yeah.
There is something called the Community Development Commission that has to approve each TIF, but they've never not approved one, and all the members are again appointed by the mayor.
Okay. So it's not elected. It's basically
It's the mayor's show.
who he likes.
Show, right?
You just start calling him Emperor.
Emperor Emmanuel the First, maybe so. But what we're trying to do with the TIF Illumination project is using data mining, investigatory reporting, graphic design, and good old school organizing to ask the question, what are TIFs doing at the ward level? Because that's where we live. Because if I told you, or if I asked you, how are TIFs, what's life like in the Kinsey Industrial TIF District? Like, it's like Mars.
Where?
It doesn't register. But if I say, how is life in Lincoln Park, in Beverly, in Englewood, in the 13th Ward, in the 39th Ward, right?
You know those numbers. You know those places.
That's your kind of where you live mentally. So you'll be able to answer, it sucks, it's great, whatever. So we're trying to help people answer that question, is how's life in the 43rd Ward with respect to TIFs? How's life like in Englewood with respect to TIFs? If you went to the city's website, you can't answer that question because it's impossible. So we did a combination of data gathering, data scraping, we did a freedom of information request, we did a friendly handover of data, and we looked at the extent documents that anyone could get, and we came up with something that looks like this. So this is the TIF illumination of the 27th Ward, which has 12 TIFs in it. So these are the shapes of the 12 TIFs. If your folks can see that.
We'll make sure they can.
And we'll have that graphic up.
Yeah, if it's not clear on screen, we'll have it in a better way for people to see. But the point is, you can see how it's kind of easy to hold, and you open it up, and look, there's the map of the 27th Ward.
It's like, oh my God, where'd the money go?
Yeah, it's right there. And there's the shapes of the TIFs, so people can say, oh my goodness, I live right there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then the numbers are the amount of money that TIF has taken from the ward just inside the boundaries of the TIF in the ward.
Right.
So we're able to sort of do a pretty precise cookie cutter kind of thing. You have the shape files of the ward, the shape files of the TIFs, and we have all this other data. You put it all together, and you get this grand total that in 2011, these 12 TIFs sucked up $37 million in property taxes from the good people of the 27th Ward.
And we're closing schools, and parks the roads are going, are going to pot.
Yeah.
Parks are being left.
Well, when you look at who gets the money, this is kind of
Precisely.
to your point.
Yeah.
Mariana's Grocery, $7 million. Blommer's Chocolate, $8 million. Now, go outside and you smell that good chocolate. That's $1 a smell. Let's see.
Public service, I guess.
Yeah, and let's see. Jewel Food got $4 million. Something called Clybourne Larrabee LLC. Who are they? We don't have a lot of data on this, so we're actually asking people to help us crowdsource some of this. So if this is news to you, if this is something you'd like to help us with, you can go to civiclab.us or TIFreports.com and sign up, and you can become, we'll deputize you, and you can become a TIF illuminator.
And that's a good point. You were talking a moment ago about designers and TIF illuminators. You mentioned and folks, if you have the opportunity, it's really important that you come out to these meetings, really to get a handle on what's going on in your community. Whether you're an owner, whether you're a renter, this is important to you. This is impacting your life. When the city says that it's broke, maybe not so much.
Yeah. What's in the black box?
What's in the box? Well, $1.7 billion in unspent TIF money at the end of 2011. So this is your property taxes. This is not funny money or not magic beans. This is just good old-fashioned property taxes that have been collected by these TIFs, sitting we don't know where, earning we don't know what interest.
So this has been since 2003.
Again, back to that lack of oversight issue.
Yeah. Again, we're not sure about a lot of this, but what we do know is on January 1st, 2012, there was about $1.7 billion in unspent TIF funds sitting in all these 163 bank accounts. So it's hard to say that, it's hard to stomach, or it's hard to figure that we're broke if all that money is sitting in bank accounts, and we have $8 million to give to, say, Mariano's Fresh Grocery on Halsted, which is in the hottest retail district in town.
Hardly a blighted area.
Not to my eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, unless Spoookyyyy is blight, that's, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it doesn't make any sense, really. So, the Central Business District was TIFfed, LaSalle Street was TIFfed. It's so far beyond what blight is, it's lost its meaning. These projects are rifle shot projects driven by clout, not policy. This is what we're finding.
Curious, I don't see, speaking of blighted districts, and Brian and I work with homeless people and people going through foreclosures, particularly in Inglewood on the south side. I don't see, maybe I'm missing it, I don't see any of this money going to these neighborhoods, which if I'm going by the literal definition of blight, these neighborhoods would fall under that definition.
Yeah, you'd think. Well, we'll do a special TIF illumination of the Englewood neighborhood TIF on May 6th, but people should check our website for the evolving schedule. These things are happening pretty much every other week. We started with as you mentioned, with the first TIF town meeting at the Chopin Theater on February 12th, 2013. It was standing room only. It was the night of the State of the Union address.
Yeah, it was.
It was like a rock concert.
Yep.
It was like people were chanting, "No more TIFs, no more TIFs."
It was something else.
Yeah.
No, you could definitely tell that people are starting to catch wind of this. I mean, how much do you have to listen to, doomsday scenarios over and over and over again? Every year that I've been in Chicago, I've heard the doomsday scenario around the CTA or something else. And then, we're finally up to the point where they're literally slashing things. They're shutting schools down, they're shutting mental clinics down, they're shutting all these things down. Yet there's this huge lump sum held, and we don't have access even to information to see what it's going to, how they plan on spending it or anything. Maybe they'll just give it to us at Christmas or something. It'll be a bailout for the people. I don't know.
Check under your tree.
Right.
But there seems to be greater awareness about this.
Well, Ben Jaworski's been writing about this for 7 or 8 years easily.
Been doing some incredible work on this.
Yeah, so he and McDumpke have really, really plowed the earth. They filed so many FOIAs, trying to get information. He's great. So I sit at his feet. And also former county commissioner, now Congressman Mike Quigley, who's done a lot of work. Before then, there was even Jackie Levy of the now defunct Neighborhood Capital Budget Group. So she has deep knowledge about this. So from those 3 people, I've sort of taken their work, and they've published a lot. And then our own research, and so
But you hear this come up more and more. I hear this at protests.
Well, the teachers' union is sort of interrogating this. Parents groups, there's a group called Raise Your Hand, which is totally driven by parents from about 80 schools. They were all into this. There was even people who were involved in homelessness and affordable housing, the Sweet Home Chicago Coalition. They got into this.
Because it affects everybody.
Yeah.
Across the board.
Well, if you live in the city, you're affected.
You're affected.
PIRG, Illinois Public Interest Research did a study of, so there's many groups that are sort of circling this. And I think this is part of the larger frame of the 99%, 1%.
Absolutely.
So people are beginning at a much larger level after the bailouts of our financial
This
institutions.
is the accounting side of the 99%, 1%.
You know, this is right. This is where we live on that side of the equation.
Sure.
But you know, we the citizens bailed out the financial services industry to the tune of $14 trillion. They literally burned their own houses down. You know, when you think about Lehman Brothers and AIG Insurance, they literally, through their greed and criminal activities, that literally destroyed their own institutions, and we bailed them out. So we can't really be broke. I mean, as a nation, if we could do that.
Now we are. Maybe.
Now we're really broke.
You know, one of the things that I found really interesting at the Chopin Theater, you had Dr. Richard Dye on.
Yes.
Who's been doing did pioneering work in studying this.
Yeah, it's for like 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. But one of the things that really resonated with me was sort of the mythology about TIFs and what they can do, the idea of jobs, the idea of its benefit to a community, and his work found something vastly different.
Well, he's been a scholar of local government finance of all sorts, and sort of tax policy, and just this question of what levers do you pull for local economic development. And basically, as I interpret his research, for those places that have TIFs, they grow slower than places without them. So TIFs actually retard economic development, according to Professor Dye. He said TIFs are hidden regulation and hidden governance and hidden taxation. In his words, TIFs do not do economic development. They're simply a finance tool. They just moves money around. But the quote that he said at this February 12th town meeting that I'll never forget is he said that when the national scholars sit around at the lofty tables and conferences when they discuss these issues, he said Chicago is the poster child of shame for TIFs. So Chicago, once again, you're an object of your teaching lesson.
Hey, we're not the second city.
Hey,
in that one.
We're this number one.
Oh my goodness.
Number one.
You had a great cross section of people here tonight. You had some people that spoke on the commercial side. You had some people that spoke from the job side. I believe there was some gentlemen here that worked at Target who could attest to the fact that the jobs that are created by these TIFs are not jobs that pay a living wage. Or
no, that's a key point.
Particularly in a city like Chicago.
Yeah, so that's another key point that the scholars point out, that when we as citizens invest billions, literally billions, it's about $85 billion a year across America in these gifts to corporations in the name of job creation. But when we do this, they tend to be low-wage jobs. And what happens is you can't really sustain your family on a low-wage job. And so you end up in the emergency room. And so this odd feedback loop that this is pointed out by the professors at UIC is that we're subsidizing the Targets and the Walmarts and the such like for their low-wage jobs, but they're not enough for benefits or to sustain them. And so the workers get worn down. They're more likely to use the emergency room, and then we pay for that. So if we're gonna pay anything to anybody, the question is, what's the smartest way to make Chicago a desirable place to work and live, so that companies will beat a path here? We don't got to bribe them. We don't got to bribe them to build Mariana's Groceries to do what they would do anyway. Why should we bribe them? So
how about educated children and educated workforce? Should be a light on here somewhere. There it is. Boy, that was kind of strange. Folks, we lost our power. So we want to apologize to Tom Tresser for a very odd little end to the show.
Yeah, sorry about that, Tom. But the presentation was fantastic, and we've got lots of information from CivicLab, from TIF Alliance, to post on revolutionbeer.com, so you'll be able to get all that.
Exactly. Follow those links, join along, and come out to some of these events.
Yeah, they're doing them ward by ward, and literally shining a light on a lot of corruption within the tax increment financing situation that we have in the city of Chicago.
Exactly, and we don't want to say that there's a conspiracy afoot here with the power going out.
Yeah,
but
Could say. I mean, I heard it was a full moon. Someone delivered a goat head to the Cubs coach during negotiations. But we won't go on about that.
Exactly. But we do want to give a toast to Tom Tresser, our guest.
Yes.
And we do want to say it's kind of interesting. One of the things is we're hearing more and more about tax increment financing in all sorts of venues. We're hearing it more in the news. We're hearing it more in the dialogue and in the protests about school closings and some of the austerity measures that City Hall is trying to impose upon the people of Chicago.
Yeah, there's actually some indication that Ron Emanuel is not following so aggressively on TIFs right now. We're hoping that will persist, but we'll see what happens.
Well, these are supposed to be for blighted areas. Obviously, from the evidence from what Tom was showing us, they're not being used the way they're being billed. And we'd also like to thank Ben Jaworski, who is also in the audience today, and left a little bit early to follow up on his story. A busy man, but he's been following this for the past couple of years, as has Tom. They've been kind of those lone voices in the wilderness.
Yeah, you can always look up TIFF and Chicago Reader. You'll be able to find plenty of information that Ben's written about it.
And we do have those links. Those links will be on the screen here. They will be here. You can also get those at revolutionandbeer.com.
Along with lots of information that we'll keep pumping out. So it'll be a bit of a live feed when it comes to the TIF situation, because this isn't going anywhere.
Yeah. And despite the power outages, whatever caused it, we're not saying, but whatever caused it, we are going to follow up on this. We are going to keep strong in this. So and we do have regular updates from Tom and Ben about TIFs and about TIF meetings throughout the city of Chicago.
Yes. Ward by ward, we're usually following it around, and we'll be pumping it out through our website, through Twitter, through Facebook, and everything.
Absolutely. So again, thank you, Tom, for a great presentation. We apologize about the power, but that's TV.
So
that's live TV. So
you want
to call it?
I think so. I believe that's the last call.
I believe that is. Here's to the holidays, buddy.
365
All right,
of them.
folks, we'll see you next week for another Revolution in Beer. Until then, have a great week. Get involved. Get active. Change the world, but by all means, do it with a decent beer in your hands.
Please.
Cheers.
Revolution, we don't wanna wreck this town. Yeah, we just wanna let out revolution. We don't wanna burn it down. Yeah, we just need a little revolution. You'll never know what it's like standing in my shoes. But if you corner me, you're gonna find a fighter. Your camera